Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 235 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. We survived, did not get laid off. The show, it just keeps on kicking. Cog, you're here joining me today, as always. How are you doing today, my friend? Oh, you're muted already.
Yeah, I'm definitely muted. See, I realize I got the memo yet.
That's it. You're done, bro.
It's over. So what are we, Spicy Soldier? What are we now? Yeah, man. I figure I got, the appropriate shirt on today as dusk falls, and we're just sitting by in one of the most difficult days for me, just on a human level, with so many, we will discuss, how many friends and people I know and, people really, really scared, and
Sure.
just trying to provide comfort and help to people going through a very difficult situation, and which we will get into. And then also just people, who are safe, feeling unsafe. And this is the worst I've seen. And again, all I try to do is just provide comfort, and we're going to get into the deep questions. We're going to get into everything because today was a bombshell of a day.
Yeah, a literal bloodbath. And obviously that calls for shaking up the show. So we want to loosen up a little bit, do some health as wealth, because we had a lot of write-ins about one particular subject from a man, Lord Cognito. Got some good laughs in there. I do have the rest of the show written. So what I was thinking we'll do is we'll do health as wealth. We'll jump into the Xbox layoffs, talk for however long that takes us. And we'll see if that's just the whole show, or if we end up just kind of running out of things to talk about, and it's like we have an hour or two left, maybe we'll swing back into some news, do what we're playing. We'll figure it out as we go along. But you know how I roll as the person who writes the show. I'm like, I feel like different news calls for different structure, and I don't think holding the structure for a week like this, where we all know those who are listening are here for one thing and one thing only. And so we want to get to that as soon as we can. And yeah, boy, do we both have a lot of thoughts to share.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get things going here with health as well. So, Cog, you brought an issue up last week, right? You talked about the easy mode struggle. We went into that a bit. You brought it to Constellation. We got all of LSM chiming in. And, hey, man, your little signal flare has paid off really well. The most write-ins we had, barring the Xbox layoffs, of course, were about your subject in so many different perspectives. So, hopefully, I think this episode, you'll be able to announce what your decision is. Let's start off with David Hutchins, who, by the way, always doing the hashtag every week. Appreciate David Hutchins, just always on top of it. Big supporter of our show, so we appreciate you immensely. He writes, Cog, you asked for write-ins on playing games on easy. Here's my opinion. I turned 52 on Saturday and do not have the reflexes I did in younger years. My eyesight has also declined with age as well. I started playing games on easy mode several years ago, and it has been great. It allows me to play a game to enjoy it and not to be restarting checkpoints over and over. If the game is too easy, I turn up the setting to normal. I can still play harder games. I have the Platinum Trophy for Elden Ring, but choose to simply play the games and enjoy the stories within them. If the devs do not want games played on easy, there would not be a setting for it. So if you want to see what Liza P has without all the stress, then drop it to easy and check it out. I've held out on this game as well and will likely be picking it up soon and checking it out. Have a great day, guys, and thanks for being the best podcast on the air. We appreciate you. Thank you. We have so many write-ins. I'm going to continue to run down here for you. I'm going to let it snowball here.
Yep.
I apologize if I clear my throat a lot. By the way, I forgot to say, your boy's got some throat coat tea.
Oh,
right here.
Throat coat tea.
Yep, it's hanging out here. Yeah, dude. It has been, when we were flying home from North Carolina, dude, when you hear someone on the plane and they're sick, and you got that moment of, oh no, like I'm vacuum sealed in here for hours. Like I'm probably sick. So this kid, a row in front of us, he's got that little kid cough, like very wet, like not, hands to his side as he's coughing constantly. I'm like looking at the parent, like, please, can you say something to the little kid? Like hand over the mouth, into the elbow. Like this is, come on, he's on a plane, dude. So this kid's coughing up a storm. And right there, you kind of know your fate is sealed. Now, at first I was looking all right. Laylee got sick.
Oh,
I had to introduce her to the world of the throat coat.
oh,
team,
for the
right?
throat coat.
Yeah, I had to show her what's up, right?
You had to put her on.
Yeah, I had to put her on. And she was like, oh, my throat's hurting. I said, I got a solution. And well, you know what helped? The throat coat. So about a week goes by. I'm thinking we're good. And then I start to get the cough on Sunday. I'm just like, oh, no. Here it comes. And so, yeah, dude, it's been a little rough, but we're going to push through because it's a hell of a news day.
Yeah, for sure.
Nicholas Brillhart writes in next. Greetings, Dukes of the Beach. Cog wanted write-ins about easy mode. I'll do you one better. I use cheat codes to get through Conker's Bad Fur Day on Rare Replay, particularly the one that gives you 30 lives. I was not fighting through legacy shooting controls in the Saving Private Ryan parody without more chances. I also couldn't even finish Gears of War 1 on easy. I gave up on the final boss. Use the tools given to you. Lower the difficulty, use cheats, and use accessibility features. They are there for a reason. If all else fails, know when to call it quits. Gaming is supposed to be an enjoyable experience. If you aren't having fun, recognize that and cut your losses. Your time is more important than the conversations you could be a part of for finishing something you didn't enjoy. Let's turn to a doctor's opinion. Surgeon Ed writes in. Yeah, dude, you brought out all the old heads, I'm thinking.
I
here.
like this.
Cog and Maddie. I'm a general surgeon in his 50s who has been gaming since the Commodore 64 and Atari days. I have enjoyed the hobby immensely throughout my years, and it has provided me an outlet from the stress of my profession. But growing up during this era has established in me the same problem Cog has. It is extremely difficult, if not impossible, for me to move the difficulty slider down to just finish a game. I tend to want to play the experience as the developers intended, even though they included an easy mode. It isn't that I don't have the ability to finish the games. I have completed, here we go again, Elden Ring and its DLC alongside many other Souls games. My main issue, probably like many others in the community, is time. With my demanding career, usually 80 to 100 hours of work a week and responsibilities/hobbies outside of it, I no longer have the free time that I had when I was younger to finish these games. I end up getting through 30 to 60% of the game before moving on to the next. I know I'm missing much of the game, and it does bother me immensely, but the time to finish my backlog is becoming longer than my expected time left on this earth. I also game everywhere, PC, PS5, Xbox, Switch, VR, you name it. So my backlog becomes even longer. No matter what, I still can't just find the fortitude to switch the game down to easy. I very much enjoy the challenge of a difficult surgery and performing many laparoscopically with cameras and small incisions. It's much like playing a video game, except on the human body. That's one way of thinking about it. I think this is the reason I continue to keep the difficulty on normal, i.e. the challenge, and not just power through more games. I still like the sense of accomplishment. It allows me to reminisce about my younger days. Thanks to all of you in the community and promoting health is wealth, I will be leaving you with a pearl. Dr. Google is not a good source of solving or diagnosing your own medical issues. There's a reason physicians go to school 12 plus years after high school. Seek one out if you're having issues. Your own body and mind is more important of an asset you have, or is the most important asset you have. Spend your money and time on preserving it. This wonderful hobby is very sedentary and can lead to bad habits. Prevention is key. We got more, Cog. We have 3 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
The Dukes.
I'm telling you, bro, you pulled everyone out on this one. KB writes, hey, gents, Cog, I wanted to chime in on whether or not you should play Lies of P on the new story mode added with Overture. If you were just looking to dip your toes into the Souls genre and see what the fuss is about, I'd say it's worthwhile. But you've been on the record saying it's not a skill issue. So that raises the question, why not experience the game as the director originally intended? If you're feeling overwhelmed by the sheer number of releases right now, I get not wanting to be bogged down, but why rush through a game you know you have the skill to beat? You brought up the amulets from Final Fantasy XVI as a comparison, but that game is more cinematic by nature. In that context, one could make the argument that the slowdown effect actually enhances the experience. It adds to the game's visual language rather than subtracting from it. I can't say the same for Lies of P. In that case, I think the original intent, the tension, pacing, mechanical challenge, would be lost. Ultimately, you should play games however you want. That said, there's a reason people don't watch movies at 2.5 times speed unless they're overwhelmed by the amount of content they're behind on and just want to catch up. This is the long-winded way of saying, if time permits it, I think you should play the game the way Neo-Wiz originally intended. Mr. Scott, if you're nasty, is up next. Dear Creepy Cog. Yeah, this one is for Cog. And let me add a different perspective from the softies. Playing a Souls-like or any other game that isn't strictly a narrative game on story mode is cheating yourself. You're watching a movie, not playing a game. It's like a participation trophy. That's Maddie's generation, Cog. That ain't ours. We earn our trophies. We earn the new PR. We don't let the spotter lift the damn weight for us. Story mode is for children while they're learning the basics. Get your beautiful body out of that playground, Creepy Cog. Step up to where you belong. Die, learn, triumph. Written with a smile, no anger. Have a, I'm holding up that trophy knowing I didn't do a thing to deserve it kind of day. And if we get to all the write-ins this week, y'all have some crazy names, but it probably doesn't get crazier than Gay-Z and Cockefeller. Again, I'm the man just reading the names. Like there is some here this week.
Ether fan of Nas Ether the song.
Yes. Yeah. I shared these names with our LSM staff, and we got a good kick out of the names this week. So if we get to them, your ears will be in for a treat. To wrap this up, hiya, Dukes. I just wanted to chime in on the difficulty discussion from last week. I found myself in a similar thought process as Cog playing Liza P. Overture. I was getting my ass handed to me in the first area and kept having to walk all the way back to the next checkpoint and rapidly stopped having fun. I asked myself, why not lower the difficulty? I realized it came down to a mixture of pride and pressure from Soulsborne purists. I said, fuck all that. I beat the secret boss back when the game first released. I have nothing to prove to no one. I have adapted this philosophy to all my games now. If it stops being fun, change something. All right, Cog, you got my take. You got Colin's take, Gene's take. You got the audience's take. You've had a week to think about it.
Yeah.
Where are we at? Have you made a decision where you're at with the difficulty conversation?
I pretty much have, we're going to talk too long about what's games playing because there's so much news today. But yeah, I took all the feedback as this, I'm in my 40s. I done put in a lot of work in this games industry as far as video game playing and talent level and all that good stuff. The fact of the matter is I just don't have the physical time to play everything. So if I want to continue on that road, some sacrifices will be made. So it's either don't play the game at all or make some adjustments. So my decision as of right now is everything that I intend to play that I have my heart set on as a COG game, I will play at the intended difficulty. However, there are going to be times where I'm considering it right now the Death Stranding moment, right? Where there are certain games that come up out of nowhere at the same time of my beloved games or like a Lies of P, right? And you're like, man, I wasn't expecting this right now. This is great. You're coming into the backlog. This is a very challenging game or a game that's going to take a lot of time. And I said, look, this is just pride and ego. What is the issue? What do I have to prove? So take the difficulty down if you want to be a part of that conversation and get it done. And I understand, the intent. I do understand like, hey, the developer intention and that part. And I will say, I was playing 16 and I'll get into a little bit. And the amulet was actually making it too easy for me. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to take this part off, but I'll leave this aspect on kind of thing. So I think that's where I'm at. I think I'm at peace with it. I feel like I have nothing to prove to anybody anymore. This is more my ego speaking to me. And it was just like, and I said, Maddie's right. Why miss out on an experience completely, right? If it's just my pride's on the line. So I want to sit there and brag to other people. I've done that. I've lived it. Yeah. I've got a lot of championship belts. I've done this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nothing takes us away.
Yeah, it was my pride. And again, it's just being a competitive gamer all my life. And, as a person, feels a certain way. And I don't have anything to prove anymore. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that's where I'm at right now. So
I love the mindset.
I'm taking Maddie's advice and I'm doing it. And we'll talk about, games playing briefly. But I'm starting it with things. My rule is anything that I feel is part of the conversation that I didn't expect. I'm like, damn, where you come from? You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't really expecting to play you right now because you are a zeitgeist, and I want to be part of this conversation. And I do want to add that. And I think it's going to help me. That's just me personally as far as getting stuff done, especially with my schedule. My schedule is just absolutely unhealthily nuts. So that's just where I'm at.
I feel you. No, that's good to hear. Yeah, because like I said, I always look back at two games. I look at Veilguard, which is like, if you're suffering, I mean, make it easy on yourself. In my case, like, it's like I have to finish this as my job. Like I'm not. If I can shrink this a little bit, that'd be great. Yeah. So there's that angle, and then there's like I talk about with Dragon Quest III Remake. Like I was getting smoked in that game, and I play a lot of turn-based games, and I know I'm really good at it, but I was like, this is that old style turn-based. I don't know. I have to play more Dragon Quest to see how down I get with them as like a franchise, because I know it's very classic JRPG, which is not fully what I'm about.
Yeah.
But that was one I turned down easy, and I had way more fun time with it. I was like, yep, this is much more manageable. So it's about what keeps the fun factor going.
But I will say again, the games that I am most excited for example, like Expedition 33, right? They didn't have an easy mode, but like that's where I'm staying in that pocket. And that made that game for me. You know what I'm saying? So I get it.
All right. Well, we got a couple more Health is Wealth write-ins. Just want to catch up with the audience here.
Yeah.
I mentioned crazy names. This one is For Those Who Come After, title of my sex tape.
Hey, yo.
There we go. Today, Duke, I just wanted to share a personal win for the Health is Wealth segment. I hit a 500-pound deadlift before turning 40, sorry. As a dad of two, let's have this dad has a name for those who come after, title of my sex tape. All right, bro.
All right, Dad. All right, Dad.
With another on the way. Okay, now we know we got the origin story here. This was the one on one of the bucket lifts that's been years in the making. I felt like my own personal championship moment. And speaking of championships, how about those Florida Panthers going back to back? We're going to skip this. I put down the weights and had to stop and make sure my body was still intact kind of day. Sorry, bro. We're not reading any more Florida Panther shit on the show. I can only take it so much, man. Like, knocked down my Rangers, knocked down my Oilers twice. Like, a good team. Skedaddle. Thank you. Kyle, any thoughts on this writing?
No, I mean, salute to him with his, the deads and all that. You know what I'm saying? Salute to making those, we call them PRs, you know what I'm saying? Little personal records and all that. That it too. You don't seem to be very fatherly right now, though. You seem to be real loose with your members.
Well, congrats nonetheless. I'm very proud of you. Adam Bogarby writes in, what's up, Dukes? I got a bone to pick with Maddie. Issuing a prom stand down, sorted out, and 0 out of 10, Maddie. You got to read up on the bro code. Not knowing your friend's birthday is completely reasonable. I have decade-long, thick as thieves friendships with multiple friends where we don't know each other's birthdays at all. I can barely narrow them down to seasons, let alone months or days. If anyone has a birthday, they themselves let the rest of us know so we can plan something accordingly. Listen up, Princess Maddie. Bros base their friendships on real time spent together. Superficial knowledge about birthdays and favorite colors is pointless. Even people's literal names are pointless. I know a couple of neighborhood old heads and talk to them semi-regularly for hours on end. We have long conversations about life and politics. If you were to put a gun to my head and ask me to tell them their names in exchange for my life, I would be more dead than Xbox hardware is right now. Have a Timmy forgot my birthday, so I'm not playing Hot Wheels with him anymore kind of day. Dude, you sound like an awful friend. Yo, I was supposed to say, bro, you talking to people you don't know their name? Yeah, you sound like an awful friend. I said that, like, shout it out. I was like, Adam, you've written in a lot. We appreciate you here. You might want to revise your friend, like being a friend, just a little bit. I get the whole idea of not memorizing the birthday fully. When it's a milestone one like 30, I think I've got a case here. That's my whole point. I don't expect everyone to fucking line up, send me birthday wishes, give me gifts, set up events. Like, come on now. There's no Princess Maddie here. It's just a little, what's up, bro? Happy birthday. Am I asking for a lot on my 30th? I definitely know I'm not. So I appreciate you, Adam. Your real approach here is more than welcome. But I'm going to ask you to look in the mirror here.
Bro, speaking to the old heads and don't remember nobody name. Yeah. That's nasty work. Adam,
just come on. It's like, what's your name? Rob? Jack?
Yeah, that's co-worker work. Like, that's like, you know what I mean? Like, you in the office, you passed through, you don't remember the dude in the mailroom name. You know what I'm saying? That's
the co-worker energy. Or like every relationship you have is like, yeah, I'm probably not going to talk to this person more than like twice, 3 times in my life. So I'm not really going to process anything they say. And then you kept seeing those neighbors. And I bet that's what got you. You're like, oh shit, I kind of got to keep this thing up. Thank you for writing in though, Adam.
Salute.
I wish you would, writes in next. G'day, Dukes. I took a dive into a Mr. Matty Plays video rabbit hole, sorting by the oldest uploads. And in Matty's 2,000 subscriber video, he mentions that Fallout New Vegas was a disappointment and calls 3 different games the best game ever. No question here. Just want to make sure this is on the record. Having alternate dimension where 2011 Cog runs into teenage Maddie at the playground and issues him the strongest of stand downs kind of day.
That's well worked.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, there's probably tons of videos where I mention how much I think New Vegas sucks up until like 2014. I think as a game that I fundamentally misunderstood, just because of like how I didn't appreciate good writing until I was like in college. I think it was when I was starting to learn it and understand like what good writing is. But yeah, 3 different games is the best game ever. Like, yep, that sounds very me. I've watched my old videos, man. Like there's a layer to my commentary that I think I've improved.
Yeah, bro, we all learn, bro. We all grow. There's so many crazy takes and things that I thought back in the day. I can only imagine if they was out there like that.
Yeah. All right, Cog.
Yo.
Health is wealth is over.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the news. We've loosened up, got some good laughs in. Now it's time to get real. The Xbox layoffs we talked about last week have hit. And here is the report thus far. Mind you, this is an evolving story, and it really sounds like, based on what people are saying, that we might learn more layoffs are hitting. I don't know if it's going to be to the level of canceled projects or studio shutdowns, but we might get more details on said canceled projects. I'll get into that in a moment here. But for now, this is what we do have at the time of recording. Perfect Dark has been canceled alongside The Initiative, who was opened in 2018, shut down. Everwild, which was announced in 2019, has been canceled. And in turn, the Banjo-Kazooie and Sea of Thieves director, Greg Mails, has left in wake of the news. He was at the company for 35 years and is considered the company's most valuable designer. A new IP at Zenimax Online Studios has been canceled. That was in development for many years now. They recently just said that they had 400 plus people working on the game for 5+ years. They also folded in studios like Alpha Dog and Roundhouse Studios to likely focus on this IP. Matt Firer, the president of ZeniMax Online Studios, has left in wake of this news. He was the company's founder, and he was there for 18 years. 50% of Turn 10, the developer behind Forza Motorsport, has been laid off. 10% of King, the Candy Crush developer, has been laid off. An undisclosed amount of people have been laid off at Raven Software and High Moon Studios, known as Call of Duty support teams, but are capable of far, far more. The head of the Xbox family and child safety team has been laid off, as well as half their user research roles, which have been made redundant. There were rumors of Phil Spencer leaving Xbox, and Microsoft has shut those down. As of now, Phil Spencer and the rest of Xbox's leadership core is here to stay. And just to recap, in 2024, Arkane Austin was shut down. Tango Gameworks was nearly lost forever until Krafton picked them up. Alpha Dog Games and Roundhouse Studios were rolled into Zenimax Online Studios. And this is not including the thousands upon thousands laid off by Microsoft in the last 18 months. All right, Cog. I mean, for me, the initial emotion was kind of no emotion. Like, I thought I'd be angry. I wasn't. Not because this isn't bad news. Just you used a word before we started talking, like, kind of apathetic to it. And I'll get into why, but I definitely felt as I just read more and more and it kept pouring in, this is absolutely the worst it's ever been. Just, it does not matter who you are, what your position is, what you're making. You're at risk. And it's sending a really dangerous message to teams that have been acquired by Xbox recently, or teams that Xbox might want to still acquire. As they've said, they're not really done with acquisitions, which is crazy to think about. But I'll leave it there. There's just so many ways to pick at this thing. You know, what teams surprised us the most? What cancellations surprised us the most? While some of them, in my opinion, do make sense. The timing of which they are happening at and how long they were allowed to spiral for is of great concern to me. There's just so many ways, again, to go at this, but I want to kick it to you, see where you want to start things, and we'll just go from there.
What an awful day. Where do we start? I think for me, coming into this, I'm like, okay, we heard the rumblings, right? Something's going down, potentially Wednesday. You know, we heard the spectrum. You know, it could be something as redundancies, and then you start hearing studio closures. So of the mindset, I'm coming into it, I'm like, wow, what a horrible look it would be for any studio to be shut down during this time. And people very fearful for their jobs that know me, I know people are coming to me. God, what are you hearing? And it was scary. Very prominent people. And, you know, you start to get nervous. Okay, no, this feels different. This doesn't feel like, again, no layoff feels good. And for the record, right, this is something that consistently has been happening across the games industry for a while, that people consistently hit up, be a publisher, whatever. And I'm like, bro, this is what I'm hearing. I don't know, and here's where I would direct you to, that I know, hey, they're hiring, they're looking for people in your specific field. And I'm just trying to, that's me. I've always been behind the scenes. If you my man and I know you do this and you nice at this and I know someone else that's looking for that, here's y'all number. Let's get it popping. But let's get back on focus with this. So the news hits obviously today. And I'll be honest with you, Manny, like the initiative being shut down, Perfect Dark being canceled, is probably the most disgusting thing for me personally. The way I look at it is this. I understand game development. Things take long. I get that. You built that studio. This is your creation, Xbox, right? So to me, this is a horrible look because, again, it reemphasizes from the creator of game standpoint, you're not good at that. This is a reemphasis of there's no defending this. Like, we have evidence. Now, when it comes to others, I'm going to get into that, but I just want to focus on initiative first, right? That's Daryl Gallagher, world-class talent. His resume speaks for itself, right? We heard the rumblings of what was going on in the building. Then the Crystal D shirts came, right? We like, okay, seems weird, but he does have a rapport. But here's the part that bothers me. Was it last year?
Yeah,
we got
last year.
We got a review. We got a trailer of this game. Fabricated assets, vertical slice or not, right? I don't get mad at vertical slices because my thing is that's actually an attraction tool for developers. Hey, man, we're excited about this project.
They got the creative director from Insomniac to come on over from the Wolverine project. So it worked, right?
Right. That is I know gamers don't like it, but that is actually a recruitment tool to get good talent. Hey, if you're excited about what you see, come join us. We're rocking and rolling. And then when it gets developed, you get as close as you can to that conceptual trailer. Perfect Dark was looking hot. We were like, okay, remember? The concern was we didn't hear from you. What the hell's going on? Quadruple A's, and okay, fine. That was a resume thing, but okay, fine, right? So you're like, all right, yo, okay, I can calm down.
Yeah.
They're back on track. To cancel that game is awful. There's no getting around about that. And now you shut down the studio. Your baby, your creation.
Before it could even release anything, man.
They didn't release a game. Where they do that at? So for me, I'm like,
has that ever happened before? I don't think I'm sure it has, but I just, it's so insane of a headline. Continue. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think, right? And I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Is like, I've never heard of that. Hey guys, we're acquiring studios where we're making an Xbox game studio family, right? We've got all this talent we've acquired, but we're going to make something of our own, right? And now let's get back to where I'm kind of going with this. Now, the Everwild thing, again, we haven't heard from it, right? We're like, what's going on? I remember the picture, the seance and okay, our style looks cool, but at least we saw what it could be. And then you don't hear from it anymore, right? So you're like, okay, what's going on then? Am I like crazy surprised about that one? No. But at the same time, again, where I'm going to go with this is this. This is the problem with Xbox right now, right? And for anyone who gets mad and says, yo, this is, what's the term that I'm going to use? Like, studios get canceled and stuff get true, right? But the problem is this. They have a tendency to announce, right? And show, picture a world we didn't see the Perfect Dark trailer. Yeah. Picture a world where we didn't see Everwild, right?
And then you'd be upset. You'd be like, hey, the conversation would be like, hey, what are they doing? Right. Which is fair. But it wouldn't be like, yo, you literally showed us and said they've been quoted. Hey, it's coming along. Great. There was this recent quote.
There was a clip for those who need context. It was Phil on Xbox Era's anniversary podcast talking to that team. And they asked him what game is he most excited about that's currently announced. And he talked about this February 2025, Everwild. He said it's coming along. It's looking really good. We're really happy with it. He, I think, said something about it being his and Matt's baby.
Yeah.
And they were like really happy with it. And it gets canceled 5 months later. You know,
again, this only happens to you, right? Because the difference is, and I understand people are going to do the what about it, but there's people over like Sony's canceled all these studios. Fine, right? That's cool and all that. The difference is there was no trailers about said game. Like, again, this is when you open your mouth and you show and you talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guilty. I will be on the record that I have been guilty of saying I like knowing about what Xbox is doing. That is fair. I will take my L or whatever it is because I'm just an information whore. Call me what it is. I like to know stuff, right? Sure. But it is fair to say, because they are very premature with telling things and saying things that are not complete yet, and then it doesn't hit the finish line, it's going to look bad on optics. It just is, because it's going to say that you can't complete the task. And here's what I really want to get across is that this is the part that it's very difficult to say, but I think it has to be said in the sense of when you, and I hate to do the whataboutism, but I have to say this with PlayStation, right? You can say they don't talk, but at least when something's not looking good or shit, it's immediately, we won't see it, but it will be cut down behind the scenes. And then when they do come out and they're ready to talk, it's most likely ready to ship, and it's most likely of a higher quality. Yes, they've had Concord, the biggest flopping game. I'm not going to say that. Yes, their live service is what it is. I get that. But for the most part, we won't know about it unless, because we're the really hardcore insider people that, you know, that's digging. That's just for us. So that's the difference. It's just like, it's the approach. It's the heavy-handed approach, which is, hey, what are you doing over there? What's going on in your studio? I need to see what's happening, right? Versus cool uncle approach. Hey, come through, man. Yo, you know, you need a home. Hey, here's money, whatever. And then, you know, you come back later around final. You know how like some kids need consistent supervision?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right. And then you got, for example, like for some kids, I'm going to use Obsidian example, right? They're like this A student, right? Hey, guys.
Don't got to watch over much.
Don't got to watch over. And that environment works. And in fairness to Obsidian and to Xbox, there are some studios that's like, hey, we wouldn't even sign with you if you try to pull dictatorship stuff on us, right? I get that. But the reality is this. We have enough evidence. Redfall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everwild, Initiative. Like, there's enough evidence to say, hey, your cool uncle approach where you're kind of hands off, is this really working for the whole of the studios? I think that's fair criticism on management and leadership style. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I think I have to say that, you know? So, look, there's more to say here. I mean, obviously, the Zenimax thing hurt from another reason because, look, I'm just going to be real. I heard things. And I'm not going to put the people out who said it, but I'm just going to say that I heard, as far as Mr. Fiora and other people at Bethesda that may have stepped down in the past, that this is kind of a silent protest kind of stepping down. That, see, I'm from the era of, okay, I'm not used to seeing all these video game developers. These are heroes. The people who make these games are the heroes, right? They're getting let go at a rapid pace. They're not coming back to the games industry. But one thing you don't see getting let go is the stakeholders, is the people at the top. You don't see any accountability on that part, right? We got to talk about it, right? So what I heard, again, this is what I heard, is that some people are like, look, I love what I've built so much and we built here. I can't look my team in the face and sit here with a fat salary, yet all of y'all going off up, and I'll be okay. But I can't let you guys who gave me my blood, sweat, and tears die for this. You know what I mean? When it's really
sounds fitting based on what I know about him.
And what I heard, again, I ain't gonna put nobody. These are things that I've heard, and that is admirable. And you know who else they having no problems? Nintendo. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because again, that's what I'm used to, the accountability for leadership to say our bad decisions put this team and these people, these heroes in these awful positions. And that's the part, Maddie, that's just, I don't see no end to this. And I don't want to isolate this to just, this is an industry-wide issue. There seems to be no accountability. It's about, I just want the biggest games, the biggest stuff, and that's,
it's only business.
Exactly. Final thoughts. Turn 10. Not happy, but not surprised.
Makes sense. Sucks a lot.
Yeah.
It's like a casualty of Horizon and its popularity. Like, I don't think Motorsport did that bad. It's just, I think Horizon 5 did so good.
Yes.
Like, insanely good.
In a world, Maddie, where you're a licensed game, you're on the decline.
I didn't think of the licenses.
Right? You can't really reuse them old, Porsche thing. And then you got a situation where if you really look at it, it's a bad portable game, like a game to be multi-platform ported. GTA, from my understanding, when I speak to the hardcore simulation racing dudes, Forza at one point was this, right? From what I understand with this latest one is that it's not that it's an awful game, but there's a regression from what people expected from it. And then they've been maybe slow with certain things. And I've interviewed that team, right? And then they kind of made it this online platform without a number.
RPG.
Right?
Yeah.
Now GTA 7 is this, right? You can't port Motorsport over there and look to see, in my opinion, to get any substantial benefits from a profit standpoint the way you would with a Horizon. When Horizon is clearly the star and clearly substantially different gameplay wise from a Motorsport.
I just want to make sure I'm like, do you say GTA or GT, like Gran Turismo?
Gran Turismo 7 is considered.
I was trying to put together. I was spacing for a moment trying to put those two together. I might have misheard you though. Sorry.
No, you go. But I may have worded it wrong. Gran Turismo 7 is considered now the de facto simulation racing. So that's a hard game to port Motorsport over to PlayStation and try to recoup, in my opinion, right? Because they're in the same space and one is considered better. And it's like, right? So you got that, the license thing. And then let's just, like you said earlier, let's be real, Playground, right? With Forza Horizon, that is the de facto thing now. But what looks bad, Turn 10 was one of the OGs from the beginning. That's one of your first studios. Again, your own.
Such tremendous history.
Your own. We'll get into it. I just want to also shout out, I just been trying to, speak to people and just see what's going on. And, with Zenimax Online, also with the, I believe, again, close friend to the LSM family, Hoag's brother is affected, is by this because he was working on that. And Hoag put out a tweet today and in reference to his brother and just saying how, this was kind of his dream project, this MMO game that they were working on, right? And I just want to leave one last thing, and I'll let you up. I mean, I got more stuff. It was a tweet that just really, man, I was almost driven to tears with this one. Trying to find a developer that really put it in perspective, and it was kind of like, I'm going to paraphrase. I can't find it right now, but it was kind of like, you make this big risk to jump into game dev. There's not enough jobs as it is. You fight and you interview and you nail this small percentage of jobs of availability to get in there. You move your family, you leave your spouses, you do all this stuff, right? To have this inevitability that you've now broken your family, may have lost your relationship, you're living somewhere that you're far away from. And where do you go from now, right? You pick up the piece. Again, I'll find it eventually. It was one of the most heartfelt things I've ever read, and I'm just like, man, this is a brutal games industry, and the sad part is I just don't see any light at the end of the tunnel with this. And we'll get into them. I want to get your thoughts. I know I've been talking for a while.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
you're good. Yeah, this is I think the blame has to firmly lay at the feet of Xbox's leadership core. Like, it just has to at this point. Not that we were running away from that at any point in time. I know I said as much when the first round of layoffs with studio closures hit with Bethesda last year. But it's significantly worse this year when I look at that year's kind of shutdowns and how Hi-Fi Rush, Tango ends up getting saved. 2 studios rolled into Zenimax Online Studios. We lost a team in Arkane Austin, but the recovery was solid enough where I was like, okay, these companies, these employees have hopefully new homes, and we avoided the worst. But this is like an unmitigated disaster. And what I tried to spotlight in my video, and why I do lay it at the leadership team's feet, and what it leads to, we can talk about, but I blame them strictly because a lot of these projects have been spiraling out of control for a while. And you kind of alluded to it already, the whole cool uncle approach. But it's on you when a game is in development for 7 years with nothing to show for it. We can blame talent, restructuring. We can talk about even the pandemic. There's certain X factors that happen that no doubt were bumps in the roads for every team in the industry. But again, I think what's the central point of this conversation, and maybe it feels a little tasteless to put one above the other right now, but that's why when I look at Obsidian, I'm like, they figured it out. It's possible to figure these things out. And if you're Xbox, I think the best lesson you can take from this, if your leadership core is going to stay the same, is to please go study them. Why does it work for them so well, but no one else? That you own one of the most efficient companies that's releasing 3 games in 1 year. What is it going to take for you to really study that process? Talk to Fergus, talk to the team leads. What's your pipeline look like? Why are you not utilizing your own assets to build a formidable gaming system?
Yeah.
I don't get that. To me is the biggest failure of it all, is you have these pieces, you have these resources, but as you said perfectly, Perfect Dark and the Initiative, you could argue, is their greatest failure. Specifically because with something like the Initiative, COG, to me, it's like, this is the only time they really have tried to build from the ground up. Everything else has been purchased. And so, as you mentioned, it's a reemphasis, a reaffirmation of just how bad they are at doing this. Because one thing I wanted to make sure I highlighted in our write-up here was that the thing that will haunt Xbox long-term, more than the canceled games, the what could have beens, I think people eventually get over that. It's the talent they're losing in rapid fashion. You're losing the founder of Zenimax Online Studios, one of the key people who made that company worth buying. You lost the lead designer, the director of Banjo-Kazooie. And also, it's not like he's a has-been. The game that's probably keeping Rare afloat right now, Sea of Thieves. You lost the director of one of your most prolific live service games. So what happens now is Xbox is just inheriting corpses constantly. They're taking in these teams, they're buying their names, their portfolios, and losing all the talent that makes them. And that's why I think something like the Initiative is their single biggest failure, because you got the all-star talent. You went through that portfolio, that list of people they hired for the Initiative, and it was like an all-star team. Midway through development, or whatever you want to call that point, everyone left. That, to me, and we're not privy to what happened in that moment. You have to imagine there's a falling out, lack of creative direction. There were some reports, but the reality is this. That's where you get involved, and that's where you pivot, and that's where you try to prevent these types of failures. And something like, I think, Perfect Dark, if that gameplay demo is real, I think was worth holding on for, if only just to protect you as a brand when people work with you. Because now you look like the worst company to work for, as far as I'm concerned. And my biggest frustration, frankly, is the long leash that this leadership core has had. You can argue they were responsible for turning things around when it was really dire. But It's not even just, oh, I don't like the changes they've made. When I look down at the last year, Perfect Dark canceled, Initiative shut down, Everwild canceled, New Zenimax Online IP canceled, half of Turn 10, a storied Xbox studio, laid off. 10% of King, one of the main reasons you bought ABK, laid off. Support for Call of Duty, the other main reason you bought ABK, laid off. Your head of safety teams, your research data, gutted. In 2024, Arkane Austin, Tango, Alpha Dog, Roundhouse. That's fucking abysmal. How do you keep your job? I'm just being real. How do you keep your job when that many casualties are in your line of work? Not over even half a decade. This is just over a year. I don't know, fanboy or rational fan, wherever anyone lies, I don't know how you look at the lineup I just gave you. That is 100% true. That has happened since April of last year. And you go, yeah, they're doing a good job. It falls to them to identify these issues. And if it's too much for you to manage, you shouldn't have 20 plus first party teams. If it's too much. But this is a leadership problem through and through. And unless that's handled, this will continue to happen as they start to offload hardware to third party. It's disappointing because, like you and like many of our listeners, I have such deep, fond memories of Xbox. And those have been dead for a while. But to see it go like this, where even people I really respected, like Phil, putting out these tone deaf fucking letters along the lines of like, the business is successful. Okay. And you're laying everyone off. Right. How successful is it? Especially when even in your layoff letter, you don't mention sales. You say games in development, hours, right, playtime. You don't even have sales in your own layoff letter. Right. So how bad is it? And what does this message send to teams like Ninja Theory? Right. Compulsion.
Yeah, Compulsion. That's
teams like Obsidian who make smaller games. What does this say to them when Zenimax can't even cut it above Elder Scrolls Online? Yeah. What does it say when Rare, this incredible team, can only do Sea of Thieves and that you can't even get the initiative off the ground? If I'm the scary precedent that's set here by leadership, to me at least, is it's going to be boring. I think they're going to remake and remaster all their old shit. If Gears and Oblivion were anything to go by, I think they're going to do that, especially when Oblivion did as well as it did. I think they're going to milk their old franchises because they can barely make anything new that people are fucking excited about on such a massive level. So they have to lean into the times. This is actually Laura Fryer, who we'll talk about later in the video, said that, they're going to lean into the times where they were making great things. I had a lot of high hopes. Like I'll call myself out. I had a lot of high hopes with the acquisitions and how they were structuring things and how things could have been for their business, but it has gone up in flames as far as I'm concerned. It really has. Everything from the third party pivot, which I know they're making more money than ever, to these shutdowns, to these cancellations, it's been a fucking failure. And it's a lot to say that when you look at the Xbox One generation and how bad that was. And I think there is an argument to be made that this generation has been worse. And that is why, again, you look at like Don Matrick, clowned to death, right? And rightfully so. One of the main faces around killing the brand. He gets canned. Understandably so. His vision was terrible. It was not gaming oriented. It was TV, movies, that sort of shit. Not about gaming. Packaging in a Kinect. How dumb can you be? So then you go to this generation. How is this success? This is Microsoft, no doubt, as in not shifting the blame, but this is how Microsoft operates. We hit profits and then we trim so those profits are even bigger. Right. And then as Phil put in his note, he was like, yeah, and we have open positions at Microsoft Gaming. Circle around to those and you'll get priority interviews. Likely so that same talent they have now can then be rehired for probably less, which they'll take because they need a job, with no benefits. Because that's how Microsoft operates. And you'd think in the Xbox business, after Halo and how Infinite was a disaster because of contract talent, because you couldn't retain enough to learn your own tech, that this would be avoided. There is one argument I will make in mild defense of the Xbox leadership team, and it is simply that I find it so hard to believe that Phil is this clueless. As in February, you were saying how Everwild's coming along, and in July, you are shutting the project down. That doesn't sneak up on you. You play a game and you fucking know, dude.
Right.
Unless he was just,
so what,
I'm going to
what
pull
does
a random
that tell
game.
you? What does that tell you?
So I think sometimes I'm like, is this Satya? Is this kind of like the eye of Satya, as we've talked about? And if that's the case, again, I think it still goes back to leadership to not have the foresight to see just how damaging Activision Blizzard King coming into their fold would be for their overall business. The image they have as a brand, what it would do to how they try to sell games. It just, there's going to be a documentary on this generation, and it is going to fucking slap when it happens. That's
the information I need. And again, I hear what you're saying. There's nothing really I can refute about what you're saying, right? The only position I have is I try to not, and I'm not saying you're being hyperbolic. You're going by the information that you have. What I try to do is I try to sit there and say, okay, one, based on the information I have, what is it that we don't know? Because clearly there has been contradictions, right? Clearly, right? They made decisions that at one point they thought this was the right way to go, right? Whether you want to say ABK or whatever, but at the end of the day, what's the end result and where is the consumer trust right now? The consumer trust is in the toilet, right? Because no one, and we'll get into Laura Fry stuff, like no one's going to believe you, even if you say, hey, we're committed to how when you make the statement, put the partnership out, whatever, or hey, we got these studios for exclusive games. Hey, this game's looking good. And hey, all of that stuff is going to be thrown out the window again, because one, the way they've contradicted themselves. Two, the way they have presented their products in a way that says, hey, we're working on this. Everything's fine. It's good. You're going to see this, coming soon. I remember from the, everything you see here for the next 12 months, you're going to get, kind of thing. I remember that stuff, right? So how I look at it, and it's just me, I'm not going to say failure. I'm going to say uneven. Where they were, in my opinion, I'm going to die on this part. They never recovered from Xbox One. This has been consistent course correction. And then if I'm pulling up their game studios right now, right? The biggest, prior to this, the biggest flop, disappointment or black eye, in my opinion, was probably 343, Halo. How do you let this happen to what defines you? Right? And we know the quotes about how, things would be if Halo's not good, right? We know what that is, right? So now we got the 343, and I agree with you, right? Mismanaged. We saw the stories, all the stuff. Most likely going to be, if I had to guess, a remaster of whatever, right? We'll see how that goes. World's Edge. Those are our people from those are the Asia, and who's World's Edge again? I forget they.
Yeah, World's Edge is the age of.
All right, profitable. That's just acquisition. You do the PC strategy. Okay, cool, fine. Coalition, solid. For the most part, Gears franchise has been steady. You know what I'm saying? Nothing crazy. Whatever, but steady. Now here's the surprise. Compulsion, I was expecting potentially to be on this news.
This is right. That's my prediction. I hate to be that guy.
Hate to say it, right? I love the game, but I'm a realist in the fact that I was assuming it's not commercially successful. Right?
Just look at the player count. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
So what that tells me, again, I'm inferring, I don't have data, but if they are safe, that tells me that maybe the budget for what they proposed wasn't this huge thing, and it did not hurt them in the effect, because to me, that's a candidate. And I hate to be cold and crass, but that's how it is. Then we get to Double Fine, which has not released yet, right? So you're like, okay, cool. We're going to see what happens. But again, you tend to make small-ish type games. I don't know if that survives in this ecosystem. We'll see. Xbox Game Studio Publishing, I feel for the most part, has fairly been solid outside. Yes, there's a couple of cancellations, but there's been a couple of decisions that I thought that they've partnered with that I thought were really good. That's just me. Initiative, this is the biggest black eye I've ever seen. You literally built a school and closed the school. Hey, we're opening a school for us. We're going to develop games out of our house, and grand opening, grand closing. And you don't ship a game. Awful. Like, there's nothing. Yeah. In Exile looks like one of the best steals that they've got. Again, Clockwork Revolution looks amazing. We already know about Westlife 3. I got to say, Mojang is the money maker, right? That's Minecraft, I believe, right? So you everything's eating off that. That's one of their smartest acquisitions, right? So again, up, down, up, down. Ninja Theory, interesting, because at first I'm like you, like, took a long time to make the game, didn't seem commercially successful. But from what I hear, right? Again, this is what I hear. I don't know how much truth to this is. I can't confirm this with multiple people. But what I'm hearing is not only are they a savant with the tech and Unreal, that studio that was built helps other things. So that's a help everybody, again, which is another reason why
coalition coded.
Right, which is another reason why Tango got let go, because Tango's like, hey, all right, you're good. We got you by proxy, but what can you help in another time zone and help the other teams? That's part of how they work. All right, then let's get to the prize position. We already know Obsidian is the all-star team. I am 100% with you. You need to be in that office. Everyone needs to be taking notes. Every studio needs to be run like them from a pure efficiency standpoint, output quality, everything. Playground, I think, is great. You have Forza Horizon 5. That is the creme de la creme. You could say that Fable hasn't come out yet, fine, but it looked fantastic, and we've seen multiple times, right? Rare, uneven. Sea of Thieves a hit, yes, no question. It started rough, it's a hit, but they really haven't done anything else besides that, right? And then and after Sea of Thieves gets ported, right? What's next? You're just now the Sea of Thieves studio. You've got this storied history of making all this great product. Okay, cool. Turn 10, the Cole Reality motorsport we already went into, right? We don't see the long-term tail. Other than that, you don't do anything else. But your Forza tech, no doubt, maybe that's what kept you alive. And maybe you need to be consolidated into Playground, but it's sad to see what that has become, because that's also a founding father kind of studio, right? Yeah. So it's still a bad optics look, regardless.
Yeah.
Undead Labs, I'll be honest, I thought about hear about them, right? We didn't see them at the showcase, right?
They're on that list with Compulsion with me. I think give it time.
That's fair. And who am I to dispute that based on how this is the climate they've created. Unfortunately, they are not to be trusted.
It's not even trust, in my opinion. It's what's happened is reality has caught up with Xbox's leadership team that, like Perfect Dark, we've been making this for 8 years. That's $80. How many copies do we have to sell of Perfect fucking Dark to make our money back alone? It's probably an absurd number that franchise as a total has never seen.
Yeah.
Same thing with Everwild. It's like, this little thing that's probably a little like, South of Midnight coded, like artsy game for the hardcore gamer. It's been in development since 2019.
Yeah.
How much does that I need to sell? Or are you what?
And how much cost is it to keep, investing in something that's taking so long, right? To come out. Yeah. And then I'll finalize it because I know Bethesda got so many. So I'll just say overall, I feel Bethesda is a net positive. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, yes, they had the Redfall situation. They had the smaller studios. I'm not discounting any of that. But when you have an Elder Scrolls Oblivion, when you have a Starfield that still was, for the most part, a success for them as far as lore, when you have a Doom, when you have Indiana Jones, and Machine Games and stuff like that, for the most part, and then even with the Zenimax Online, which is horrible today, prior to that, Elder Scrolls Online was doing well. So, I have to look at it as overall as a net positive, but it's just, again, I'm not going to say failure. I say uneven, but the reality is this. It is safe to say if someone does not have confidence in the brand, if someone says, I don't trust the ecosystem, I don't, think they're going to do hard, even if they announced it, this is all self-inflicted by the way they are run and the way they are managed. I cannot in good conscience tell you, Maddie, that you are wrong for feeling that leadership changes need to happen. I can't. There's no defending the initiative alone brings that into question to me. And it's just unfortunate. And the last thing I'll say is just that, I do want to stress, though, there are a lot of people utilizing this situation as some form of own. You people are pathetic. And this is the thing I want to read. I found the thing that I want to read to people, because again, it's cool to be like, hey, I was right, you was wrong. That's one thing. It's another thing to play with people's lives who are losing their jobs. You are a sucker for that. And this is why I'm going to read this tweet. Shout out to, his name is DJ Olivier. Looks like he is senior test analyst. He's at Diablo Blizzard. This is the most powerful thing I've seen. He says, well, my team is safe, but we lost a lot of people today on other teams. I'll probably wait for the news outlets to come out with all the information. I think most people won't fully understand the impact these layoffs have on the mental health of developers, but to try to put it into perspective based on my experience, most of us often spend years and years applying to these roles, getting interviews and failing, eventually finding that one success. I'll put it in the thing for you, Chad, so you can read it with me. Then move across the country to start up a brand new life, leaving your entire family, friends, and support system behind for this dream job role, knowing that can all be ripped away from you on a random Wednesday, setting you back immensely in a job market that's already unhealthy, only getting worse with the powerful benefits of AI potentially replacing roles. Well, there's a lot of anxiety and fear for the future in this environment. Questions. Will I be able to get another job in this industry anytime soon? Will I have to move back home and start over again? Will I deplete my savings paying bills while jobs are? I know this life. I'm living this life. If in a relationship, if I have to move away, do we break up? Or does this put heavy strain on our relationship that we can't come back from? If you're a solo provider, can I get a job and not impact my spouse's life, kids, daycare, etc.? He said, it's a lot of fear, which is anxiety, and these layoffs raise that emotion quite a bit. Just some perspective. And that's the thing people got to realize here. If you're not trying to provide a solution, I really don't want to hear you, because these are human lives people are playing with right now. And this is across the board. This entire industry, everyone is going through this. And it sucks. This is an industry I love. Like, this is insane that all these heroes, they have no future right now. And it don't look like there's any light at the end of the tunnel. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, that's a very powerful write-up, because to my point earlier, the thing that Xbox and all these companies don't realize is the damage they're doing long-term with AI creeping in too. Like, there's going to be urgency to fill these roles again, try to maintain production with less people. And I think there's only one way you go if you're a company like Microsoft, who's already very pro AI, trying to shove that. I think they're going to be like, their development teams are going to be loaded up with, we'll see what type of AI generated content they use. The alters got caught with it, and
we'll talk about it.
And I do think some of the arguments against that game are bad faith, to be very clear. But, you're seeing, when my point with that and bringing it up is more so you're seeing it in big and small.
Right, for sure. I see what you're
like 11-bit was not a team I imagine would be using that. They are. So it's like, oh, they're doing it. Then like, we already know Xbox is fully using it. So when you start to lose this much talent, I think there's a plan to replace it, just not with people. But it just breaks my heart, because they're capable of so much more. And you have to just ask, when you buy these teams, you ABK, you lay off teams attached to Call of Duty or King. I'm just like, I get redundancies are made.
Right. Redundancies we get, but the other stuff, I agree.
It's just insane to me. I don't know. I don't think this industry changes until there is accountability at the top. And
fair. Yes.
For all the good they've done, I think someone's got to step down. I do. And I don't think anyone will. So I'm not calling for it like it's going to happen. That's the saddest part, though. And it's like, you know, because what these leaders don't realize they're doing by instilling this culture permanently into gaming, pardon me, is that you're pushing so many new developers away, not just from your own, you know, as Microsoft, but I say this to so many people. It's like, who in their right fucking mind looks at video games and says, well, I love playing them, making them though, unless you are truly the most passionate.
Yes.
I've said it before. I'll just use myself as an example because I don't want to speak for anyone else. That is why I got into game development. It's kind of a stupid choice. I could make a lot more money just making my videos, doing my podcast. I'd have a lot more fucking time. I know that. I'd be way less stressed, probably have way less health complications, but I just love games. And I want to kind of transfer that experience I had with particular games to someone else one day. That's the dream.
Bro.
That's a select few people who feel that way, especially when, in my case, like we're independent. We can feel that way a little more stronger because you have me as a boss who feels that way. And so like, I'm going to think about the art first. I'm not thinking about my pockets. When you start to step into a corporate environment where you're just like a piece of the puzzle, that by default, some of that passion is stripped away.
Right.
You know, you're just not a factor as much as you could be in an independent space. I think they're really clearing the way for independent teams to lead the charge in the industry in the future. And no doubt, I think remote teams. I think that is going to be a big one too. So I just think, again, if they want actual substantial change, I don't even think uneven is good enough. Like you can't be uneven. You can't be, not even in performance, your messaging, your wording. You cannot be this inconsistent and be in a position of power, because as a fan and as a purchaser, I don't know what the fuck to believe out of you, sincerely. And I know we've talked about Xbox marketing and messaging from top to bottom a number of times, but like sincerely, how can I take the head of your brand seriously when this dude is on a fucking podcast saying Everwild looks really great, you know, it's our baby, and then he is at the head of the message shutting down that project? I'll sympathize like mildly that maybe this is a Satya call or something like that, but even then,
that's fair criticism.
The foresight's just not there, and that is ineptitude. That is incompetence, and it's taboo. I get it, and a lot of people are probably like, it's emotionally charged, but it's like, that's the sad part, is I'm not even angry. I think I'm just speaking fucking rationally at this point. Right. It's just like, I'm just looking at it as a fan who's like, oh yeah, here come all the layoffs again. Here come all the canceled projects again. It's not emotionally charged. It's just like, what else do you do at this point? You continue to lay off the talent that make this brand worthwhile? I don't think that's feasible. I don't know. Again, I don't have the layout for everyone. Like, oh, who do you replace them with? I don't know. Right. I don't know if it's one or all three. I don't know.
Right.
But my point being is that the lack of accountability, eventually you got to take one for the common man. That's the only way I can work.
Right.
You got to eventually take one for the common man, whether it be bowing out, stepping down, getting replaced, because whether you want to accept it or not, they are the ones who make the business go round. And it's not the other way around. And in fact, by making these secluded decisions in this environment that Microsoft leadership has been doing, they've been inconsistent. Clearly at one point with ABK and which way the business was going to go afterwards, bickering with one another and trying to put their own narrative out there. Like, they're just good at manipulating, is what I kind of came away with it as. They're good at using insiders in the industry to feed specific narratives into the ethos, into the gaming conversation, to sway beliefs and feelings and plans one way or the other. Like, this is what they're best at, you know? And then they make these decisions in these, again, secluded environments and come out with clearly game plans that just aren't panning out. You're selling, but you're selling because you're porting. You're selling because you're remastering and remaking. When you look at your new shit, if I'm really, really honest, you're not selling. And that's more clear than ever that you couldn't even include sales as a mention in why your business was successful. It was about gamer hours, which is embarrassing. So now what this says to me is we're all in on Game Pass. Game Pass is everything. Okay, well, Game Pass is a fantastic service, but I don't think these changes in the next year or two arrive with Game Pass being like untouched. Well, they're already stripping like ultimate features and creating more tiers. And I just, I look at that and I'm like, they're going to keep breaking it down further and further. And it's the Microsoft way. I mean, you look at like Office, I remember there was a day I used to be able to get like Microsoft Word on its own. I don't know if by the way, I'm speaking from the hip here. But like now I had to, because my dad wanted to use my laptop when I was away in North Carolina. And I had to like get Office 365, which then came with like a subscription base, and it came with everything and like a little. I'm just like, this is what they do. So it's the Microsoft way. But that's my tangent on the leadership core. I find that I as people, I'm sure they are great. I like them. I think they've done a lot of great things, but one of you has got to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't. There's no position for me to stand on to refute you. What I will say is this. And I've said this since the business update has happened. You know, again, I'm older than you. Not saying that means I know everything and I'm wiser and I can't be wrong. But what I will say is this: I was of the firm belief that at the announcement of the 4 games being ported over, it is a wrap. This strategy has now been considered a failure. We are exiting out of hardware. We are going to be a third-party publisher. The Game Pass experiment is over. And at this point, you are Dreamcast. Collect your consoles and escort yourself to the left to the nearest refugee camp like I was with Dreamcast. That's what I was expecting. Because to me, it felt like, okay, this is an admission that the vision, the North Star is not set correctly and will not work efficiently, right? So then we got the business update, and then they told us what it meant to be Xbox or whatever, right? Hardware, and we're going to give you Game Pass. To me, at that point, Maddie, like, that was the out, right? That was the, you don't have to follow through anymore because you clearly are now shifting what your own belief system is. So for me, as a person who is been around for consoles not existing and been around for brands not existing, I was legit surprised. I was like, wow, you are still offering me hardware and you're still offering me this service that is, let's be honest, the best consumer-friendly service I have seen. I wish I had that as a kid with Genesis and Super Nintendo. You give me all my Genesis games for, okay, cool, right? So that is how I looked at them from this point on. I don't know how long this is going to last. And I know many people love to focus on the minutia. My thing is, I am happy that you exist because this is my preferred ecosystem to play on. And number 2, I'm getting this service. Nothing has changed for me. I'm not console warring because someone got a game that I played already. That means nothing to me. I'm getting to exist. So how I tend to look at them, I am going to ride this out for as long as you can continue to exist. And if you do, and this ends up being the strategy that works and you end up being clairvoyant, great. If you burn every bridge and you seep out talent, and then I wake up 2 years later and you're out of here, hey, I had my run. You know what I'm saying? I've been this is not my first rodeo. But what I'm trying to say, basically what I'm trying to get at is that I legit thought this was over back then. So the fact that they are here, the way I look at it is I am appreciative, and hopefully this works out for you and you can continue to figure this out however you do. But it's just, I just want to put it in perspective for people who actually love this brand and are really suffering right now with what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Be thankful you're still here. I'm just to be honest. I've never seen this before. But this is a timeline. I've never seen someone become a third-party publisher, still make a console, I've never seen this before. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, there's something to be said about what we're learning here is a lot of people are, I hate to use this term, a lot of people are drinking the Kool-Aid, though, is what's happening. I think a lot of people are just eating up what these execs are saying and either parroting them or spitting them back out. Like, I think that's happening a lot. And it's, if this whole sequence of events, again, looking at like Everwild, for example, is not indicative enough to just not take them at face value anymore, I don't know what is. Like for me, I've been guilty as such. There is a level of leaning into it. Like, okay, Phil said this. What does that mean? Of course, we'll continue to talk about that on the show. Of course. But treating it like matter of fact, like, well, Xbox just committed to a partnership with AMD. Yeah, and so like hardware is going to be happening one way or another. It's like, I get it. That's the rational thinker would see that and go, yes, they're going to keep doing hardware. But Xbox has not been rational for like 2 years.
Yeah, they don't deserve that level of trust based on their own contradictions.
And it's the very bare minimum level of trust we're talking about as consumer to a product manufacturer. Correct. But like, that's why like, even like, oh, well, this is keeping them around. Oh, they're making good money. Oh, they're going to be making hardware. It's like, I don't know about any of this anymore. And that is very doomer of me. I'm not saying Xbox is dead yet. No, that's fair. But it is that sort of moment of like, well, we clearly don't know. Even the insiders clearly have no idea what's going on. And in most cases, the insiders are being used. So it's just manipulated information. So I just look at this and I'm like, they could be on their fucking last rope at some point within the next 2 years. And we don't know. They might be committing to hardware now, because one thing I've learned in my pitch environment and talking to developers is like, sometimes announcements are made just to keep things alive. Right. Like when your project is on its last legs, people are like, why the fuck did you announce it then? Like Perfect Dark. Why'd you do that? It's a signal flare injected with talent and money and progress. Look, we can hang on to this. Same thing here. AMD partnership. we're doing hardware. It's not, the teams aren't like, save the hardware team. Because otherwise, why do you announce next gen plans all of a sudden? We're like a year and a half, 2 years from that. Why are you doing that now?
It's clear, not to interrupt you, but it's clear they do care about what people think and perception, right? And that could be at almost to a fault. You could make the argument.
I get it, because this is where I'll blame commentators like myself. Like, we say one thing, we get it, it results in something else, then we say another thing, right? Like Xbox, you need to be more communicative. They are the most communicative brand ever.
Factual.
Shoot themselves in the foot 8 times over. Now we're like, shut up. Go full PlayStation. Just zipper out.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that. I'm very guilty.
Like totally guilty of it.
I'm very guilty.
But now that we've seen, and by the way, we were saying this before the layoffs, like time to stop, like zip it, lock it, throw the key away. Like you got to stop. As you know, and we've said it as much as like, it's not good for our content. Like, we need these people to talk about these things and give us things to talk about. Like, it's great. But if we're talking about like what makes Xbox fun to be around, this is not it. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. They've been their own worst enemy. And to my point is like, what they say should no longer, it shouldn't have been for a while. So maybe this is just my breaking point, but just, it shouldn't be trusted. It just can't be, like, by default, because it's clear. You can even go to last year, like we talked about, like, it's just these 4 games to literally months later, there's no red tape that says thou shalt not pass.
Right.
Again, what does this tell your consumer base? That if you change your, like, by the way, we're talking about like a 30, 40 million consumer base.
Yes.
If I cannot trust you to not change your mind in a couple of months, I don't want to give you my business. So it's just, it makes me very angry, because it's not even the subtitle I used in my thumbnail, as hurtful as it may be, was pure incompetence. And that's the thing, is these are clearly very talented, skilled people, right? They didn't get there for no reason. But the way that they have just let the moment eat them up, it feels like I'm watching my team in the playoffs choke.
Right.
That's what, and not to turn it into a sports team thing, because I think that's a whole other cringe aspect of this thing. But the idea of like watching the players not live up to the moment. Okay, it's getting hot. What do? I think the answer with like Game Pass and flipping the PC, that recovered. That felt like we got a stride. Like, okay, I like where Phil's going with things here. Then you buy Bethesda. It's like, okay, I think this is a more natural partnership than others would consider. And I say this as a huge Bethesda fan, because I'm like, oh, there's a lot of heritage with Bethesda teams and Xbox. This makes sense. Granted, it's an outright purchase, but I think these two work well together already. Some of Bethesda's best stuff came with Xbox involved. Like, okay, give them more resources, get them out of the whole live service shit. Great. And I think Bethesda, for the most part, has put out some of their best shit since. So there's that to be said. But otherwise, we see it just step by step devolve away from that vision. I think at that Bethesda acquisition, right, the start of the generation, Xbox Series X doing all right, you get Bethesda, it's like, we see it now. Like, okay, class of 2018 is going to show up soon, Bethesda soon thereafter, here we go. But it's been really, you got to think 2022 had to be the breaking point. Like Halo, I think Halo might have been it as well. Like Halo mismanaged. 2022 is completely vacant. And then I think Redfall is another example of just bad leadership. How did you not know?
How did you not know? Right. That's the question. Like, how did you?
Clearly they knew, but then you look at the emails that leaked from Phil, where he was like considering it like, you know, one of the top games of the year that could perform and sell well. Good God Almighty! Yeah, like all I had to do was play 15 minutes of it. And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Again, like, cool uncle syndrome versus discerning. Maybe some might consider overbearing parent, but that parent's going to make sure you graduate. That parent's going to make sure checking your homework every night. How what's going on? And I think that's the one of the core issues. Still, it is still there because they're in a tough spot. There are based on their reputation prior, there were people who would not sign with them if they heard they were going to be dictatorship. But it's clear as day, this ain't working. Like it's not working for everyone. It's just not. There are many studios that can't handle that lack of supervision. Most importantly, your own. 343 and Initiative are the biggest stains on this leadership. There's no denying it. That's the one I can't get over. That's you, fam. You could adopt these other kids, right? That were really doing okay for the most part on their own. But you, the people you raised, the one that you birthed, how is it happening to you?
Child.
Yeah, you can't be cool uncle with your own children and no one knows what's going on and the contractors and, oh, we didn't know. And nah, I'm not forgiving that. Sorry. You know what I'm saying?
Like learning here.
Yeah.
I didn't say learning. It's obvious part of life, but what's clear is Xbox doesn't know what a happy medium is, at least from the outside looking in. It's very, I mean, you know, a lot of people might say, oh, you're assuming too much, you're inferring too much, but I don't think Perfect Dark, you know, 2018, right, is when the initiative's announced. So you're talking 7 years. Everwild, 6 years. Look, I don't think these projects, especially ones that like Everwild, let's be really frank, like not a high profit play, kind of like hey, you made Sea of Thieves, this is cocaine. Yeah. You've earned this project that's a little more personal and passionate, right? Not a high profit play, but like when you go on that long with nothing to show for it, like that's clear cool uncle energy. Like, all right, yo, you can figure it out. Oh, you cooking? All right, cool. Like you can only assume one thing at that point.
You said, yo, you cooking? All right, cool. Yeah. When you said that was wild, but we gotta have some fun today because it's a sad day. But that was wild funny. Continue.
So I get it, because when these companies kind of draw their line, they're like, you can't get involved. Look, again, this is where we talk, and you and I are like, we're advocates of this. Like, yeah, Xbox should just be the wallet. Shut up, don't do anything. I think I've gone on record of saying that before. Just be the wallet.
Yeah, I've been the record, like I said.
But I say be the wallet, though. I don't mean like literally don't touch.
Right.
Like this is still your investment, right? Like there's a reality of, again, I'm sorry, I'm just using myself as an example because I don't want to speak for anyone else.
Yeah.
When I'm actively seeking funding, I know there will be a vested interest in what our team is doing and what we're up to, and like play testing it and giving feedback. Like that's part of the relationship, is like, okay, not that this didn't exist, but there is that. It seems like there wasn't that understanding where, you know, hey, like, yeah, give them space, let them, like, breathing down their neck is probably bad and not creating a good environment for them. But letting them go for this many years and kind of having them go like, yeah, check this out. Yeah, we got the sprinting and the mantling working in 2 years. It's like, whoa, you guys are doing great. All right, keep going. We'll see you in like 4 years. You know,
bro, you're killing it, because you know what I think in contrast, and again, I hate to do whataboutism, but we got to use this example too. Now that Yoshida is free and you're getting more of the stories, right? One of the key stories to me, many people consider God of War 2018, their game of the year, one of the greats, right? I remember the story. It came through on Corey Barlog, was like, yo, that ain't it. Where you at right now, that ain't it. And you better, and dudes was shook in the bill, like, yo, we got to fix this, whatever. So don't get, you know, adorable smiley face, Yoshida, you know, teddy bear. Bro, he was running a tight ship. There's a quality bar and there's a level. And I get it. Some people innately have a skill set and not. But you have to supervise better. You can't have situations like, again, Redfall and 343 with Halo and Infinite, and you don't have a pipeline, and you know, that's the consistent MO. And again, that's a deep core issue.
Yeah, if I could speak from experience on one thing, because the way you said, just it chimed in my head. So I apologize.
No, go.
I sound like a broken record, the whole game dev archive thing here.
Love
but for me, one thing I was guilty of, and admittedly still am, that's why I have a good team around me to really check me, is I love a lot. I wouldn't say it's very easy to impress me, but like I get, when we get like new assets shared with the team, we start to see it come together and stuff, like I get excited. But there's also like something I had to learn with, as you kind of get over that new car feel, is what I call it, where it's like, yeah, this is nice. Like you have to look at it like a product. You have to just be objective about it and be like, okay, if I pay for this, how would I feel? And there's like literally the complete disconnect. And that's what I've tried to get into that vibe of. It was like, okay, this is like, I know the people who are on my team, they've worked hard on it. In fact, I'm more closely connected to them than probably anyone at Xbox is connected to, say, someone at the initiative. So sometimes it's hard to be like, you need to do better, or this isn't good enough, or, and I wouldn't word it as such, but there's a way to have that conversation of like, I know you're trying, but there's a layer you're not hitting right now. And what I've also learned in that is there are people who are very receptive to that and will come out stronger or talk with you and be like, okay, how can we work through this together? And there are people who'll be like, I feel like I'm not appreciated here. And that's it. And so, yeah, I've been on both ends of that. And it's like, you know, those are not fun conversations, but you need to have those to make sure you're putting forward a quality product. So I don't want to talk too much because obviously like I need to have something to show for it, but
that's fair.
It's just that it feels like those types of conversations that need to happen where it's like protecting your investment. Like for me, I've put a lot of money into it. A lot of my money that could be going into myself, my personal savings, or just creating a little nest for me just in case anything happens, like any emergencies, like I'm putting it into the game. So like this level of protecting my investment by being like, I got to check on how things are going here. And like, this is not spinning up the way I thought it was. Yeah. I just don't get that vibe from Xbox leadership as much. And I get it because you've got how many studios? What did Matt Booty say is the president of Xbox Game Studios? 40 projects in active development. Yeah, I don't think any one fucking guy can manage all of that. Even if you had 2 people, 3 people, that's still so much. It's too much. And that's what I've learned in all of this. So just a real sad day for that leadership team. They're capable of so much more. And it seems like they'll have time to prove it because I don't think they're going anywhere. But
yeah, I mean, you know, the hope is, right? And, you know, all I could say is, again, anyone who, you know, lost their job and stuff like that, I've been just trying to post out, you know, a lot of opportunities. I see CD Projekt Red did some really cool things today and said, hey, we got a lot of opportunities currently right now, you know, just trying to redirect it, just try to get people back on the human element just for a bit. You know, I understand we're all angry, you know, with Xbox, we're angry, you know, and it rightfully so. You know, we feel a lot of this can be avoided. A lot of this we still feel is self-inflicted. I'm never going to question anyone who feels that way. You know, I just want people to understand right now, we still have an industry-wide problem. I don't see no light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just sad. It saddens me. It really does. It really does. It was, again, one of the most difficult days from people. You know, when someone messages you, you can sense their despair and their fear. And they don't know what's going to happen with their life, right? That's the scariest thing for me. And yeah, and the final thing I would say is like, yeah, I will say this, you know, and I'm a person, I try not to be hyperbolic, but yeah, shame on stakeholders and shame on leadership in the sense of, you know, at the end of the day, you're responsible for people. You're responsible for their livelihoods. People have made sacrifices, the biggest sacrifice in the world. To me, the developer is the greatest hero. Outside of like the firemen and bro, you're sacrificing your life for the unknown, for the hope that someone will love something you create. Yeah. And you have dashed away these dreams of all these people who now may not have a future anymore, you know, and I have to pick up the pieces and it's just horrible. So my heart goes out to those people.
Well said. Yeah. If I had any closing thoughts, I don't know, man. It's really, again, the thing I've really surprised myself with today is not having all the words. Just because, you know, at first it's like, I just think about these moments that pop into my brain over the course of like covering Xbox and what were these angry moments I had? Halo Infinite.
Yes.
No 2022 games. Woohoo. Redfall.
Oh, yeah.
Studio closures in 2024, layoffs
Tango.
in a tremendous amount. Tango.
Yeah. Tango was hard.
The whole ABK debacle. It's so it's no wonder when I get to this point, I'm like, what do you say to the same group of people who continue to fail their own talent? What do you say at this point? I feel bad for the people who still work there because while I'm glad they have a job, this is going to hang over their heads. Because you have presidents leaving, you have directors leaving, you have glue style talent that's leaving. Yeah. That is probably going to go off and make their own team, by the way.
Hopefully. Yeah.
And when they go and do that, Xbox is sure going to be losing more talent that they didn't even lay off. And that feels like the least considered part of it all. I get trying to run an efficient business. I get trying to make the most money you can, but you are going to pay a tremendous price for this now. You know, the amount of talent that you have shelved or booted out from your own, like, again, we're forgetting that when they started to do layoffs at the top of this year and the end of last year, Like key Infinity Ward staff was let go. Treyarch staff was let go. Like the reason they bought ABK, Call of Duty, and they're gutting leadership talent there. You lose Bobby Kotick, you lose Pete Hines. Yeah. You're like one Todd Howard away from literally fucking this whole thing up as far as I'm concerned. Like, that's how I'm looking at it. I'm like, who else? He's like the last man standing.
I mean, here's the other thing, too.
You lost Harvey Smith. Let me throw that one in there.
Oh, yeah.
John Johannes. Shinji Mikami.
Yeah. The thing is this, and people don't forget, like, for the people who remain, how difficult it is for them, right? Because your team has been gutted. You're now expected to do more with less. And morale is hurt, right? So, that comes into question. Some people go like, yo, I don't know how long. Again, I'm not trying to say everybody, but, some people do think like, yo, how long do I need to stay here? If this is, what's going on, I may need to start, throwing that resume up there and if whatever.
These are artists, man. Like, these are artists. They think with their hearts. And there's, by the way, I would say that in a derogative way. Like, they think with their hearts. They think with that element more than anything. They're emotional. And so when you have fear riding over them, do you think they're going to produce their best work?
But that's what I'm saying. And that it just, I don't want to put too many people business out there, but like, I got a lot of friends at Bungie. And man, like, bro, this reminds me like post-final shape on steroids. Like they launched their, because we always hear record profits and, this, that, and the third. And then I remember, and it was critically acclaimed. And then it was like, bam, right after, all of them, the majority of them shut down, let go. And it was just like, wow, I just gave blood, sweat, and tears. I gave my life, and none of that mattered, right? And then for the people who remained, it was even worse for them too. Not that it was worse for the people who lost their job, it's definitely worse. But the people who remained, it's just like, you're just picking up the pieces after a nuke just hit. And now you're responsible for rebuilding this destroyed city that stakeholders and share, you know what I mean? Like, you're responsible. And then it's a nasty game, bro. This is a nasty, I can't recommend this game to anyone in good faith. And this is a person who loves it, who wants to be in it. Like, how can I recommend this to anyone? Like, we got to be, we're like suicide. Like, what is this? Like, is this going to change? Like,
nothing lasts forever. I think anyone who goes into anything in their life knows that. Like, you're not going to be a developer forever. I'm not going to be a YouTuber forever. You're not going to do podcasts forever.
Facts.
You go into everything knowing there's an expiration date. But the reality is, like, the second you hit the shelf, like, you have a year maybe.
Yeah.
That's not realistic for creative endeavors. Yeah. And again, no one's asking for, because no doubt the thing that I think people will twist up the most with our words is like, we're asking for like indefinite pay, like constantly holding on to everybody. Again, I try to make it clear, like, these cancellations do make sense. I get why Perfect Dark and Everwild got shut down. Yeah. There was really little to show for these games over half a decade. That makes sense to me. But what doesn't make sense is when the leadership team didn't identify this early enough to pivot.
Facts.
And it's, as Cog said, an industry-wide problem, whether you look at Bungie or I really look at PlayStation a little bit with something like Ben's Studio.
10 live service games.
Well, I look at Ben's Studio, right? I look at Ben's Studio and I'm like, Days Gone. It did well enough to justify a sequel, just wasn't as great as, like, say how Ghost of Tsushima eventually did and so on, right? Like, it wasn't up there. So they pivot them to God of War live service game. It's like, who the fuck wants this? And then they shut that down. They had something else canceled. So now I think Days Gone came out in 2018, I want to say. Yeah. 7 years later, they're starting their next game. Yeah. That's horrible, but that's common. Yeah. I know the whole thing in the industry is cancel games happen all the time. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. Get fucking bent, dude. I get it. Shit doesn't go as planned often, but it should not be happening at the clip it's happening now.
Right.
That's the unacceptable part. And again, if leadership actually felt some heat, like, oh, I might lose my job if I keep fucking up like this, then that might actually create some better management skills and organization, because it's like, oh, I'm under threat, not them. Now they can go. Right. I'll still be here.
Right.
It's selfish, bro. I can't read it any other way. It's unbelievable. And especially, a good leader when you see one, whether it's cutting your pay in tough times. You saw, I think Nintendo's leaders.
Oh, Nintendo.
I'm going, by the way, off a tweet, so I apologize if this is incorrect. But I will just say what I did think I saw. I think it was Stealth 40.
Yeah, Stealth 40K. That's the whole. Yeah. Pretty accurate.
I'm pretty sure he posted a thing highlighting how Nintendo's leadership took less pay this year than last year.
Yes.
Launch here for the Switch too?
Yeah.
Look, man, they're still making tons of money. Like that was a objective fact. And they should. They're running a fucking Nintendo. Like they're running Xbox. Like these people should make good money. There's no denying that. I don't think you get into those positions and you get paid peanuts. But the idea that there hasn't been, I mean, to our understanding, to our knowledge, any cuts, any sacrifices, we don't even, to be fair, know the story about how Hi-Fi Rush and Tango Gameworks got saved. Like we don't know if like maybe there was a conversation there, or were they destined to fail, but then Krafton did just step in, or was Xbox looking for a home still after the fact? Those are stories that we don't know that could make certain parts of the Xbox leadership appear better. But from my angle, again, I just look at it and I'm like, you guys have done enough. You've done enough. You've hurt the brand enough. Thank you. Appreciate you. Time to go.
Right.
One of you at least.
There's basically it's corporate greed in conjunction with no accountability system for leadership when bad decisions are made. Right.
Yeah. And there's no way to really enforce it.
There's no way to enforce it. Right. It's just okay, bonus or not. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's that until that changes. And someone told me this like 2 years. This is a good friend. This is one of my OG industry friends. And he told me, he's like, he told me 2 years, like, I could see it. I could see a crash. And I'm like, nah, really? He's like, bro, it's not sustainable. Like, just in general, what is demanded, what is expected. And then that also, and this is a creative business, right? Originality and all that stuff should flourish. But unfortunately, when you got the Fortnite or you got the, whatever it is, the flavor of the month game, they want that, and that's the part, right? It just, creative and revenue, I don't know, sometimes they can't coexist sometimes. That the structure of this business, it's a very difficult thing. Because even when we talk about AI and stuff, right? And I'm a firm believer, even though I've been jokingly, team AI for helping development, of course, with certain tools and stuff, but not the human soul and that part, right? But it's just like, even that in a sense, it's like, there's going to be things where people say, yo, that ain't it. But the scary part is when it is it, right? And so you make something that is completely driven from that, and they go, oh, yeah, we got more reason not to get a management in here and get it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a weird business where profits is in conflict with creativity. And I think that's one of the weird dichotomies of the games industry.
Mine is, as I've said before, with when Xbox was going multi-plat, right? They were like, yeah, we just need to pursue growth, and it's just not sustainable selling to the same customer base over and over. And I'm like, all right, I don't know about that. But the problem to me is it being a hits only business.
Yes,
1 million sales isn't enough. And when $1 million isn't enough, or 1 million sales isn't enough, and I get it, Xbox is in the business of making like bigger games, but when that's not enough, and I say it's across the whole industry, I'm like, then that's a problem into itself. When you can't have small hits, you can't have like little successes. I think, for example, the only reason Obsidian didn't get touched is like you look at something like Avowed, which I think would quantify based on what we've heard and what we read as a smaller success, is because they've had very big successes surrounding that, or a Pentiment, because they've had very big successes like the Outer Worlds 1 or like Grounded, right? Tons of players, tons of purchasers, that sort of thing, right? So I just think that element of the games business is the least sustainable part. And I've mentioned it before, how like a lot of these games do rush to 1 million sales. We see it with a lot of the games that have come out throughout this year, like immediately 1 million sales, but then it's kind of like a flat line. Yeah. So I get trying to expand that consumer base, but when all of your first party is mostly like 90% defined by go big or go home,
right.
I find that concerning. I don't think that is sustainable. And I know we can right now use Compulsion or Ninja Theory kind of as shields.
Right.
But
for now,
again, exactly. That's the thing. As time goes on, I don't think those shields will exist, because Xbox has sent a pretty clear message that if you're working on like a mega hit, a Fable, like you're safe. Halo, you're safe. Like by all standards of what Xbox has set, by the way, 343/Halo Studios should not be in existence right now, you know? But because they're producing a hit level title, Halo, like Perfect Dark, as much as I was excited by what we saw, I know that's not a mega hit potential. And that's how they're looking at things. So what chance does now a Compulsion who makes titles like We Happy Few or Contrast or now South of Midnight, what chance do they stand? Or Ninja Theory making a 5-hour game in like 4 years, really longer than that, it feels like, based on when they were acquired. You know, I think it sends a really bad message. And to me, that is not sustainable. No matter how many layoffs they make, how many changes they make, they're, and alongside them, many others, methods of doing business in this industry is so backwards. It's something that obviously when we're pitching our game, like we've been rejected by a bunch of teams too. And you learn just how risk averse they talk. You know, they talk and they're like, yeah, this is like, we're here for like the small guy. Like we want to try something risky and ambitious. Like send us what you've got. But when push comes to shove, I've learned this industry is fucking soft, bro. They are so soft when it comes. I will just be very real for a moment here, because this will be I've talked to my team. This will be a show and tell moment at some point down the road. Our game budget is really fucking good. I know that. Just I've talked to devs and I know, but also I have a brain. I'm like, it's good. Based on the audience I have, the amount of eyes I can put on our product, like that, plus our budget, our game is in a really good spot financially. It is a very low risk in a day of risk averse games.
Right.
So many are like, oh, that's a little risky for us. I'm like, the fuck, if I and our game is a risk, what isn't a risk? Because if you don't want to use a built-in audience from their perspective, by the way, like they're the marketers, they're the sellers, a built-in audience that at the very least is ready to see what I've made. If that's risky for you with a publisher friendly budget, I don't know what to tell you. But that's what this industry is now, from what I've learned. No, they talk a lot like, yeah, we're here to really like make these special things happen. We love independent developers. No, you fucking don't. No, you don't. Give me a fucking break. You know, you guys talk out your ass. And this is not Xbox, by the way, I'm saying, but like,
you talking about general. I know.
Generally speaking, this industry, they talk out their ass, dude. You know, and what I've also learned is in pitching, you really don't get feedback on why sometimes they don't want to work with you. It's just like, it's easily AI prompted. Like I can just tell, like, hi, thanks for submitting. After reviewing your materials. After reviewing your thing,
we've decided, you get the automatic.
It's literally a job rejection, right?
Yeah, it's a job rejection.
It's like that. But there's no like, here's why you didn't
human
work.
Element. There's no constructive criticism as to why said thing failed or it didn't work or why they chose to go another direction as opposed to you.
And one publisher did give us that, and I'll just say it's a difference maker.
Oh, it's gold.
And where the conversation goes, and it's gold. From there, they're like, "This is why we." And I was like, "Okay, thank you. Like, here's what we can do." And it's been a conversation. Like, it's good. It's good for business.
Absolutely.
So that's just my own. I'm sorry, I've injected so much of my. I feel bad when I do it because, like I've said before, I have to ship something to kind of like really, I think, legitimize the shit I'm saying, and I get that. But it's just I've seen too much at this point over like 5 years to not lean into that information and be like, guys, some of the shit you see in here, like these people are fucking lying to you. Like that's one of those instances. Like, you know, I sometimes wonder if like ID at Xbox is a bit of a front. I'm like, you know, just
I can't do that to that.
Yeah. Or like PS Plus, like with like PlayStation seeking out their indie program. I'm like, do you really care?
No,
like,
I get it.
Does this matter? Like the little dollars and cents you get off of it, does it really matter to you?
No, I get it. I will give them this. I feel like they've tremendously improved there. But to your point, the problem now is risk averse in conjunction with market saturation. It's so many games, right? So now people are like, hey, I need to have these level of assurances before I even consider dealing with, this, that, and the third. And I get it. It's just, I just want to go back to your overall point, which I think I really resonated with, which was, my fear is just the concern. Again, I hate to keep calling out people by name, but I got to just use these examples because they're more recent, which is, again, I look at the Compulsions and the Ninja Theories, which I consider these really creative, bespoke kind of studios and stuff like that. And they're not necessarily have produced this massive financial hit yet, right? I am concerned that when you do have an ABK and you do have, these big Minecraft and, you know what I'm saying, these huge franchises, right? You know, how do you justify the existence of someone who doesn't produce mega hits, right? And at the time, we were told because it gives flavor to the service of Game Pass and the variety of Game Pass and where they could coexist. But now we know that Game Pass is really not the focus of the strategy. You have it. Actually, feels like Windows Play Anywhere now has surpassed Game Pass as the focus of the strategy, as well as being a multi-platform kind of thing. And I think that's a legitimate question. If you work at these studios who don't produce these mega hits, so to speak, and they produce, you know, really cool titles, how does your future remain intact in that timeline? I think that's a fair question to have, you know? So regardless to the way things have changed with the Eye of Satya, you know, we're in a super, I get reductions. I get redundancies. I get that. You can't have 4 sales departments, fam. You can't have 3 marketing departments. I'm surprised hardware didn't get hit as much as so far that I've heard. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, give it time, true. You know what I'm saying? I feel if you're in the peripherals. At least if
what they say ends up coming to pass, then they'll need the hardware.
They're going to need the hardware, right? And so,
you'd hope.
You hope, right? That's the thing. So it's just like that. I guess that's where I have the legit. If I ever got a chance to have those heart-to-heart conversations with leadership or people in charge, you know, that's a legit question. What makes them okay? What makes them safe? What's the value they provide you in this very revenue and profit-driven big title world that we currently live with, you know, across the games industry?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I think I'm out of thoughts.
Yeah, same. This is just a bombshell of a day. Bombshell.
Yeah, that's a lot of studio shutdowns and game cancellations over the last year. Yeah. And possibly by the time this episode goes live, there might be more news to go over.
There might be more. Head of Xbox Family Child Safety Team. That's another one, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a person that worked in online enforcement and protections and enforcement. It's scary, you know.
Yeah,
getting ready. What's going on?
Yeah.
Again.
You just want to wrap it up here. I don't know if I really want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you, bro.
I'm like looking at the news. I'm like, I don't feel talking about Xbox. Right
I agree. This is the we have to read the temperature of the room. And
it doesn't just feel like the right week.
It doesn't feel like the right time. I'm good with calling it here. We'll get more information as we get more information as far as the news, but this is the news as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree, because we have things like, you know, what's leaving Game Pass, coming to Game Pass, pick of the week. I got some other stuff like Laura Fryer's video that we can talk about, but I'm just looking at it and like, just doesn't feel right.
I agree.
It just doesn't feel right. Not even like in solidarity, but it just like, doesn't feel right with where things are at to be like, hey, a new Halo game is going to be revealed at World Championships. Who gives a fuck, man?
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I'm having fun doing that. Like, I'm like, bro, like,
let's give it some time to just rest.
Give it some time to, I agree.
And we'll keep this news for next week.
Yes.
Given how slow it's been, it'll probably be the news for next week, but we'll catch up with everyone then. All right, Cog, let's wrap this up then.
Yeah, let's wrap it, bro.
Let's just wrap it. Do we even got a hashtag for this week? I don't. DD accountability.
Yeah, DD accountability. I like that.
Yeah, let's do that. Ladies and gentlemen, you got this deep. Use the hashtag DD accountability. On Twitter, Cog is at Lord Cognito. I am at G27 status. You can find us over there. Again, use the hashtag DD accountability. Let us know your thoughts on the episode. Otherwise, Cog, any closing thoughts as we get on out of here?
Just my thoughts to everyone. You know,
if
you were affected, you know, I just try to be a comfort for a lot of people during this time that have reached out that were really hysterical, really emotional.
Sure.
Broke my heart. And I just say, you know, all I would just say is to everybody, if you can, try to be the solution as opposed to being the fire starter. And I get it. Emotions are high. And I get it.
Oh, are they?
And I am not one to say you are not allowed to be angry. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is let's push for an answer. Let's hold accountability for answers. That's the fire I want. Like, you know what I mean? And try to get this thing that we love turned around because if it continues this way, man, I don't want to talk about a time when, remember when we used to have, I don't want to talk about that, Maddie. I don't want to talk about that, man. I love this games industry, bro.
Yeah.
Like this hurts the heart. This hurts the soul, bro. So that's just where I'm at. If you can, do your best to try to be the solution and again, be respectful for these heroes right now. So I feel like a funeral. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
Yeah.
I'll say this for anyone, because I've ranted and raved a lot this episode. So for anyone who is listening that is part of like the Xbox, Bethesda, Activision teams, if you'd ever like to reach out,
yes,
about our show, by the way,
yes.
If you ever want to reach out, shoot an email or whatever. I had someone who worked at Activision reach out to me a few years ago. They were looking for a job, and I pointed them in a couple of directions, and they ended up getting a job at Activision, which was cool. So I can try to help, of course, but also if you just need an ear from someone who's working in the industry and you just need to vent, or you have a story you want to share, right here, willing to help. Obviously, I would love to say I can offer to hire, but
everybody sign up. We can show up at Maddie's house.
I was going to say, I'd love to say I can hire, but budget's a little tight. But hey, feel free, feel free to let me know.
Respect.
But yeah, just want to help out however we can. Getting out of the noise and just moving forward. So, thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back next week with Defining Duke and Xbox podcast. Hopefully, a more normal episode then. But until then, I'm going to go have some more throat coat tea here.
Get that throat handled.
Yeah, got to get that throat handled. And we'll talk to you next time around for episode 236. Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Maddie's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.